Coming attractions won't bring no blues. A podcast. Maybe you like this podcast. I know I do. Podcast. Under the podcast, the serious podcast. Podcast. Coming attractions could be for you.
Welcome to Coming Attractions, your field of dreams for everything movies, TV, and pop culture. My name's Dan. I'm here with Nick and Joe. Guys, how you going?
I'm very well, Dan.
Yeah, feeling good.
You feeling Olympic?
As Olympic as it gets.
I understand one of you has gone to see The Founder. Let's hear a little bit more about what this film's all about for anyone at home who doesn't know.
Not to immediately disagree with you, but two of us have seen The Founder. Both Nick and I
I've seen
have seen The Founder, so this could be a slightly more informed conversation. But anyway, let's cut to the chase. Let's talk about the film. The Founder tells the true story of Ray Kroc, the man who took McDonald's from being a single restaurant in California to a global mega chain. Kroc, played by Michael Keaton, is a relatively successful salesman, albeit one who is always chasing the next big thing. His big break comes via two brothers, Mac and Dick McDonald, who are running a revolutionary new kind of burger joint in San Bernardino. Mac, played by John Carroll Lynch, is the front-of-house man, a personable, if overly trusting type. The brains of the operation is Dick, Nick Offerman, with a Forrest Gump-style buzz cut. Really, if you've seen the trailer, the poster, or read anything about the history of Macca's, you know it's Kroc, not the brothers, who end up with Founder as his title. This is a journey, not the destination kind of film.
Interesting. So, I guess off the top of my head, the first question would be, how engaging is this film? It seems like it could be quite exciting, considering how big McDonald's is now. It's a global mega chain, as you mentioned, and it's so synonymous with most things pop culture. Look, how does it feel as an origin film?
I don't want to use the word disappointing straight off the bat.
Why not? Why not?
I think the test of a lot of these films is when you're going to talk about the origin story of what is ultimately, a very famous corporation. The thing that comes to my mind is how happy would this corporation be with this film being made? How happy are they with the story that is being told? And really, if you get to the conclusion most of the time that, oh man, they wouldn't want this made, then you're in for a hell of a ride. I watched The Founder, and for like 3/4, maybe more of it, I went, man, Macca's might have bankrolled this thing. There is a lot about this film that McDonald's would have been super pleased with.
Nick, do you feel the same way?
I think so, because to be honest with you, I don't know about you, but when I walked out of the movie, all I felt like was a quarter pounder. I was craving it.
As long as it didn't have lettuce, right?
You see thousands of them being made during the movie, and I was sitting there going, God, I could go a burger right now. And I walked out of the cinema, and there's a McDonald's across the road staring at me next to the bus stop. And I'm like, I don't think McDonald's will come away too disappointed with it, because it will create, interest. It does create that craving for you. But look, I think McDonald's are probably shielded a little bit, because this is a story that's set in the 50s. The guy that created it, yes, he, as you would expect, screws these two guys over to some extent. But I guess so much time has passed now, it's not going to stop anyone from eating McDonald's. I don't think they're going to be bothered by it at all. So it's, for me, the story only really holds up because it's about McDonald's. You take McDonald's out of this film, and it's not really worth telling. You can watch the trailer and get an exact sense of what happens. It plays out exactly as you expect it to. The moment that Michael Keaton puts pen to paper and these guys basically allow this man to have his foot in the door and be a part of the business, you know he's going to screw them over. You know he's going to take over and slowly wrestle it off them, which is exactly what happens.
It's interesting because obviously Michael Keaton now has made a fairly massive resurgence off the back of Birdman, for example. The Weinsteins are attached to this film as well, and usually you'd like to think that maybe we're going to get some Oscar buzz from something that's a little bit like a bio in the way in which this film, from what I understand, is. And you guys are saying that it's not really like that?
There is no aspect to it that I think is worthy of even being in discussion for an Oscar. That's not to say that it's a terrible film. There are plenty of excellent films that don't make any kind of Oscar conversation. It's not an excellent film either. It's just kind of middle of the road. It's a film that we don't have to worry about sort of being like, ooh, spoilers, because, well, you know what's going to happen. You've seen the trailer, you've seen the poster. A guy called Ray Kroc is the founder. He hangs out with two guys whose surname is McDonald's, so obviously something happens along the way. But quite how it all happens, I wasn't sure whether it was a case of, wow, it was such a slow burn genius of a film that you don't even realize he's screwing them, or if that it's just a case of like, I don't know, it just doesn't really ever happen in the way that you're hoping. You really want. Do you know what I really wanted was for a big showdown, a big moment where you've got Kroc coming against the McDonald brothers. You've got three strong presences as actors who could all have a fantastic showdown sort of moment, and all their conversations happen over phone, and it sort of turns into this thing of who hangs up first. And it's just not exciting.
It sounds like you want like a social network scenario where it's like people screwing over other people to finally get both hands on the golden arches.
There's parallels to that, but the scene when it comes down to the little showdown with their lawyers present, these two McDonald's characters are pretty tragic. They really just lie down because Michael Keaton's character has gotten to a point where he's got so much money behind him. He says to them, you can sue me. On paper, you should win, but I've got enough money to keep this in the courts forever. So they just they're punching bags, really. They take it throughout the entire movie, and they ultimately lie down.
There is this aspect to the whole thing that it is worth, all right, we will ruin things sort of with spoilers here, kind of. Again, do you spoil Romeo and Juliet by saying what you know happened, No, yeah, anyway.
They make it through to the end, don't they? Romeo and Juliet. They live happily ever after.
Yeah.
That's right. I haven't seen it, but yeah.
It's what a film, and only a film.
Written by Baz Luhrmann.
Yeah.
He's a genius, that man.
He's a poet.
And like the tragedy of it, and I guess that's the other part. Like you think that it's going to be some sort of tragedy. Someone's going to suffer a downfall. Hubris will bring about their downfall. And with Ray Kroc, I think he ended up on Time's 100 people of the 20th century, like somewhere 50th or something. Huge influential character. As for the McDonald's, they're these very likable, if kind of you go, yeah, well, you guys didn't have the vision, so you didn't get what you wanted. And at the end of it all, again, look, hey, fast forward ahead by 30 seconds if that's what you need to do at this point. It's a matter of historical record. They get $1 million each, all right? Now, in this day and age where you're talking, multi-billion-dollar deals, it sounds trifling and, insulting. And really it is, considering how much McDonald's is worth at the moment. But in 1960, when he buys it off them for $1 million a piece, I did the research today. Well, I punched it into what seemed a fairly reputable website. How much is $1 million these days? And there was a range on it. It's worth $8 million in terms of if you adjust for inflation. But if you adjust for what your dollar was worth back then to what it's worth now, $1 million back then was worth about $30 million. So the two brothers walk away with $30 million each. Ray Kroc gets to be the guy who had the vision and wins it all. And it just, honestly, with that bit of knowledge, I'm like, so the whole thing's an ad for McDonald's.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, they kind of, in a way, they almost bring it upon themselves. They're stubborn. They resist Ray Kroc wanting to be innovative and wanting to make those changes. they put their foot down, so he just does the next obvious thing and undermines them. He's very much a Steve Jobs character. The parallel to the Steve Jobs story is very close, basically. He was the visionary. He didn't come up with the technology, didn't come up with the concept, but he could see how it would work, and he could see how he could make it into something gigantic. So Michael Keaton's not a complete charlatan in the film. He has a vision that they didn't have, and he works out how to make it work when they couldn't. So he has some right to money in terms of how it expands. But in terms of Keaton's performance and whether this will receive an Oscar nod, they're always hard to predict. But compared to his appearance in Birdman, this is Keaton cruising through to some extent.
Okay,
he's fantastic. He does what he does really well. He plays, there's two sides to him. There's moments where you're rooting for him, and there's moments where you think, he's a bit of a prick. So he does that well. He gets the dichotomy of the character down. But if he gets nominated for an Academy Award, I'll be very surprised.
Tell me a little bit more about some of the other performances inside of the film.
Well, I think we've got to mention Laura Dern. She plays a long-suffering wife, as there's often a long-suffering wife in these sorts of things, and she's fantastic. She really does a lot with very little. A lot of empathy for her throughout the film. And the two guys that play the McDonalds are great. When you first meet them, they're clearly two clever guys, and you slowly see this thing unfold. And the way that they play that is really believable. They're still a little bit two-dimensional. Like, again, I don't think anyone gets too much to work with in this film. Like BJ Novak pops up as this money man who sort of gets in Michael Keaton's ear and explains to him how he can sort of go from making so much money to a lot of money, and that's when he really turns. He's like the little devil that pops up in his ear.
Okay,
but again, he's barely on screen, so there's no performance in the film that really blows you away.
You feel the same way, Joe?
Yeah, now that you mention it, that's it. I mean, the one that stands out for me is Laura Dern, and again, it's because she was given just nothing to work with, and it's a male-heavy, male-centric film. And you can excuse that by it being the story of the male founder of McDonald's who meets two brothers. Who else is it going to be about? Well, okay, fine. But Hollywood are guilty of doing this a lot where they just go, actually, I don't want to ruin it too much, but wife who is just sort of given this very secondary role, and therefore you don't really give them a great deal of script to deal with or to work with and to really have some great lines to feed. But I mean, her performance is, I would say, the standout of the film in terms of the performances, but it's so small, and she does a lot with what little she has, but it's not enough to turn it into a towering role. The kind that will earn her a Best Supporting Actress kind of nomination.
Would you recommend seeing this film? Is this something you have to, go buy some popcorn, get a big Coke and get involved with?
Elliot did.
Producer Elliot enjoyed
Look,
it.
I've got to say, it's not a big screen movie at all.
Not at all,
Aesthetically,
right?
It's not cinematic at all. It could be a telefilm.
Well, it was quite, as far as Hollywood is concerned, quite cheap to make as well, correct?
About $7 million, I think, was the budget.
Peanuts these days.
It looks like a $7 million film. Honestly, aesthetically, it's as bland as a cheeseburger. I should mention, though, I think that definitely the best scene in the movie, which stood out for me, is when Michael Keaton first arrives at the McDonald's and he experiences takeaway for the very first time as a concept. So I think, from what I can understand of the time, these restaurants were popping up where you could park in your car out the front and they would bring the food out to you and you could eat in your car. And that was a novelty. But walking up to the window and actually taking away a burger wrapped in paper, in a paper bag, and eating it wherever you want was a completely foreign concept. And the way that that's portrayed in the movie, when he walks up and doesn't know what to do, he's like, well, where's my plate? And they're like, no, the burger's wrapped in paper. He's like, right, where do I eat it? And like, wherever you want to eat it. And he's like, okay, and he starts looking around, and everyone's just standing
You
there.
charlatans, you.
Yeah, and that's by far and away the best moment in the film for me. I thought to myself, okay, that's actually quite instructive. It never occurred to me that there was a birth of that takeaway food.
Well, we're
basically
so used to it, aren't we? We're so used to that being a commonplace now. I guess just finally, if you were to give this film, The Founder, a rating out of 5, what would it be?
Okay. I likewise have a single scene that I think sums the whole film up, and it is the very first scene in the whole film, where it's a tight close-up of Michael Keaton giving his sales pitch to, a guy. He's selling milkshake makers at the time.
It's to camera. He's actually breaking
And he's
the fourth
giving it
wall in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he speaks directly to camera and he gives this very, detailed pitch. And the whole way through it, I'm thinking, if he's doing this to a mirror, I'm going to be so pissed off because I'm so sick of the whole, it turns out he's talking in a mirror. He's psyching himself up. Here we go. And it turns out he's not talking to a mirror, but it's just a bit of a letdown anyway. He's talking to just some guy and the guy goes, nah. And you go, righto, well, that wasn't what I expected either. And that's what the whole film is. It's not what you think it's going to be, but then when it's something different, it's not particularly fulfilling. I'd give it 2 stars out of 5.
Nick?
Yeah, I'll give it 2 stars as well.
Oh, we'll wrap up. That's part 1 of Curming Attractions.
No.
Can we cut that better?
No, I didn't. We were born to roll.
Welcome back to Coming Attractions. Now, one of the developments in movie land this week was the dropping of the new Alien poster for the upcoming installment in the franchise called Alien Covenant. From the poster, it looks very much like the original Alien poster in some ways, similar design, and it tells us that the Xenomorphs, which is the double-mouthed alien creature that we all known to...
The OG alien.
That's right, will be present. So we know that so far. What do you guys think? What can we take away from the poster? What does it tell us about potentially will be in this film?
Look, I want to get excited about this film, and they're doing the right things for me to get excited about it. They're keeping it really simple. It seems as though they're going to go down that golden path that they have in previous parts of the franchise, and they're going to give us that alien film we wanted when we went and paid money to go see Prometheus. Are we going to get that? I don't know. I'm really hoping that we do, but I guess we're going to have to wait and see. But look, it has piqued my interest. I'm interested. I want to see where they're going. It's an odd one though, because it is a follow-on of Prometheus, and it was fairly critically panned. Joe, what do you reckon?
I just didn't give a shit about Prometheus. Like, the year that it came out, there was, these, the year in preview, the films that will come out and, the top 10 films to look forward to. And The Dark Knight Rises came out that same year. And, we knew it was going to be the conclusion of Nolan's Batman trilogy, which up until that point had been like, amazing, even better. The third one, who knows? So I was so excited. And when they rated Dark Knight Rises as second and Prometheus as the film to look forward to for that year, I mean, I don't think I agreed, but I didn't, violently disagree. I was like, okay, difference of opinion, but I get where you're coming from. And then I saw the film, and it just sucked.
It went down like a Zeppelin balloon. I worry as well. So, from my understanding, from what they've given us in regards to the script, so Michael Fassbender will reprise his role as David. However, he's going to be playing 2 versions of David. So,
2 Davids?
David squared.
Which means, was there a second David on the ship, on the Prometheus ship? Where does the second David come from?
My understanding is, I know this is going to sound crazy, but a group of people go to an inhospitable planet to find old David, the only survivor, apparently, of the doomed Prometheus voyage. However, this crew that arrives there has a new model David, who apparently is superior in technology. I don't know if he's going to be superior in other ways, but that is the framing mechanism that they have for this film. It got me thinking, though, there's been a lot of films where an actor has had the chance to play 2 roles. Like, there's been a lot. Some have been good, some have been bad. I mean, I wonder if it's going to work. I feel like Fassbender has the clout in which to do it, but I don't know. History's not necessarily on our side with this one, with the dual roles. There has been some good stuff. Can you guys think of anything that comes to mind?
Well, in terms of actors playing two versions or appearing on screen at the same time, I mean, the first one that sprung to mind was Nicolas Cage in Adaptation,
Ah, yes.
which is one of his rare, really, really, really good films. You know, like you can like a Nick Cage film for the fact that he's in it, but Adaptation was a Charlie Kaufman screenplay, and it was genius. So that's one example.
It blew National Treasure out of the water.
Well,
What
I've never
a
seen
feat
National
that
Treasure.
is as well.
They really, ground the heel in on that one.
That's the big one. Obviously, we had Tom Hardy in Legend recently playing the two gangsters.
Which was ultimately a bit of a disappointing film, but Tom Hardy's performances were, I felt, outstanding, and I was a little bit surprised that he didn't get any kind of award love, particularly for, now I don't remember the names. You know what? I'm just going to make a dick of myself. The Cray brothers.
The Cray brothers.
Reggie and...
Nailed it.
Yeah, the Cray brothers.
David.
And we're back.
Dan and Nick Cray, I think their names were. But, you know, he really did put in an excellent performance as two very, very separate and well-defined different people who were twins. And it was an excellent performance. But, you know, for every Tom Hardy, you've got Elvis in Kissing Cousins, where the way that they play both of them in the same scene is that they've got a guy who looks kind of like Elvis, and there's a scene where they just jump like so that they're not looking at the camera at the same time.
Yeah.
And one of them's blonde and one of them's got black hair. And anyway, how about some other Elvis style awfuls?
Well, look, I think of it wasn't the most awful film. There's Schwarzenegger in The Third Day, I believe it was called.
Yes.
Where he plays a clone, and not a spoiler. You've had time to see it.
Strangely, he went for something a little bit different for Schwarzenegger as well. It was in the not too distant future. This film.
Get out of town.
Oh, right.
It was
Spoilers there,
Yeah,
man.
yeah.
Come on.
It was the role he was born to play.
He'd never done science fiction up until that point, from memory.
Yeah, you kind of need to suspend, reality and belief when you watch a Schwarzenegger film for so many reasons.
I've got to say, though, it was pretty awesome when there was more than one Arnie on screen. That was all time.
Well, the world's been wanting it for a while.
Yeah, demanding it.
Yeah. Salivating for it.
We will clone him one day, and there will be many of him.
Funnily enough, The Third Day.
Yes,
Now,
exactly.
I don't think anyone was asking or expecting. You know what? This is a bit of a spoiler one for the film Moon. Screw ya! It's been around for a while.
Yeah, you've had a lot.
Check out Moon.
Good film as well.
What
I
a great
really,
film.
really liked it. It was really good. And Sam Rockwell was a revelation in it. And it's very, very... We talk about these films with duality inside of them, but it's just him, essentially, for the entirety of the film. It's very hard to captivate an audience when it's just you. You have to be really nailing it. And again, spoiler alert, but, when a second version of Sam Rockwell's character enters, it's great that they've got a jaded version of him who's been, he's been mining the moon for, I think it's 3 years by that stage. And then you've got this new guy who's trying to figure out why he's been such a dick to him. And it's good. It's the parallels are really, really good. And I just really loved how that played out. It was great. It was great. And I think I'm a little bit shocked actually that he didn't pick up stronger roles off the back of that, because that film's pretty old now as well.
It's a few years old. It's probably 2010, maybe, around that.
I thought it'd be older than that.
Possibly.
Anyway,
possibly.
it's been kicking around for a good few years.
Well, I mean, it was no surprise to me. Sam Rockwell is a great actor. And, I saw him in Confessions of a Dangerous Mind.
Sure,
The
yep.
George Clooney directed film, and thought, this guy's brilliant. He played the sort of charismatic bad guy in Charlie's Angels. That's probably his first really big mainstream role. But he's been good in everything he's been in, really.
He's excellent, isn't he?
He's funny. He can do evil. He can do charming. He's got he can do everything.
As a quick aside, do you know who directed Moon?
Duncan Jones.
Duncan Jones.
Yeah, which was great.
Better known as Zoe Bowie.
Ah, yes.
His follow-up film Source Code with Jake Gyllenhaal was really good. Another low-budget, high-concept science fiction film. And then he did Warcraft, which is probably a whole different conversation, but, was a step up for him. As to whether he really brought Duncan Jonesness to it, it's hard to tell. But on the strength of those first two movies, I'll I'll watch anything he puts out now because he can write and he can direct.
Guys, we're forgetting something. Eddie Murphy.
It's a whole genre of film.
He loves the double role. Chomping at the bit. He's like, wait a minute, so I'm just playing one character?
Yeah.
Pretty sure it started like really early on in the piece. He had double roles in like Coming to America. And
Definitely, yeah.
He's
in the barbershop, yeah.
Yep. That's
he's
right.
been showing his range from an early age.
The Nutty Professor, of course, there's a whole table of him, you know.
There was a nutty professor that greenlit that one. I'll tell you what. He's no longer in Hollywood. Yeah,
and then of course the bloke that we referred to, Whitey Murphy, Mike Myers, loves a double role. Has been known to turn up and show his wares as a very diverse actor, as both someone with a semi-normal accent and someone with a ridiculous accent.
Can you say, though, that he was riding the coattails of what Murphy had done? Because, to be fair, he has a dual role in So I Married an Axe Murderer, and that came out
92, 93,
To be fair, they were both pioneering the idea as far as a comedic actor coming in and pushing two different
Well, they
kind of
both cut their
roles of
teeth on
comedy.
SNL. So, you know, I think...
I reckon there was one really drunken party where they're like, you know what I want to do? I want to do... Yeah. And
every role in the film.
Yeah, and they both walked away and it's like, I can do that.
Lorne Michael pays us piss all. What if we do every role?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I want 2 checks. 2!
And of course, there was Michael Keaton, who we talked about earlier, in Multiplicity as well, which was, I think, a Harold Ramis film. Who's no longer with us.
And it's... The world is a sadder place for not having Harold Ramis with us as an actor and as a director. Are we going to miss him?
Of course. I think so. You know, he
all right. Well,
to Harold.
To Harold.
to Harold,
you know,
I
great
just don't
director.
think anything he directed was particularly of much chop.
Groundhog Day.
He did Groundhog Day.
Fucking oath he did.
Joe, wash your mouth
Stri-
out.
Oh, man, the later
Stripes?
years, I'm
Stripes
just like,
was
he
great.
did Stripes?
He did Stripes.
I
All right,
really...
well, I have
yeah.
been shown up.
dip your tongue in vinegar.
John Candy has a great scene in that where he's wearing like a onesie and he's covered in mud and he
The mud
says-
wrestling
Yeah, he's
scene,
like, so we're trying to make our way to the YMCA, and I was just like, oh my god, this is the best. Why is this on at 12:30 at night on Channel 9? Like,
Yeah, but I'm thinking like year one and
terrible.
Yeah, things
Terrible.
fell apart in the later years.
They did. They
and
did.
and no, Harold, I'm sorry, man. Egon, and I'm doing it
come
to
on, man, that's my bedspread.
with
That's for Harold.
people need to know.
Oh well,
People need to know.
we
This
don't
is
need to
public
sleep in it, though.
declaration.
Yeah.
What a dick I was to Harold, and therefore what a dick I've been to you.
He also co-wrote Ghostbusters, of course.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Him and Aykroyd. So, and he was for a long time trying to get the third film made, but he passed away. I don't know what he would have made of the Ghostbusters.
Man, I
movie.
just spoke ill of the dead. Hey, people aren't impressed. Sorry.
I'll
Sorry,
forgive you.
world. We're also being given that this is the time to wrap up this particular segment. I think it's as good a time as any to say stay tuned for part 3 of Curming Attractions.
Come on, Jackson.
All right. No, I am your father. That's our McConaughey Vader intro to what is the final part of Curming Attractions for this week. We have set up a Facebook page. Give us a like. Get involved. It's CA Podcast, facebook.com/CA Podcast. Likewise on Twitter. Check us out. We had our very first comment this week from someone who will be known as Grant F., who simply stated, "Bout fucking time." And I couldn't agree more. Gents, bout fucking time?
He's breaching, and I'll tell you what, I'm ready to convert.
I don't know what the film world has been doing up until this point without us. To
It's
be
been
honest.
disappointing, and I
Whereas-
feel like
They've been sitting on their hands and their ass doing jack.
Who's been criticizing film up until this point?
but who polices the police? Who criticizes the critiques? Who is it that tells us whether we're doing a good enough job or not? For starters, you can on Facebook, and please hit us up. Let us know how awesome we are, which you definitely will, or let us know how terrible we are, which you won't.
Don't make us hide those comments. Because we can do that.
Nick, what were your thoughts on last week's podcast? Was it worth tuning in for?
Would you go see it?
Yeah. Would I go see it? Yeah, because I'm a raging narcissist. I can't speak for the wider audience, but I thought we were pretty good. Probably a little bit too indulgent, probably a little bit too tipsy. I looked quite sunburnt. I was relatively sober. How are you, Joe? Because you've been sober before the podcast, from memory.
I had. I went to a football game, and I actually was lucky enough to be in what is known as the first class lounge, where I was. Well, you know what? Like, I was going to say I was fed alcohol. No, I demanded alcohol throughout the entirety, and I turned up a little worse for wear. And I was very aware of it when watching back. I remember recording it and being like, I'm fucking killing it. This is the best podcast anyone's ever going to listen to or see. I'm smashing it. Anyway, this week we're no longer on the brown paper bags. Instead, we've opted for the mid-strength. 2E's, or 4X, sorry. 4X, if you want to get behind us, fuck 2E's. Unless 2E's want to get behind us, and then, yeah, you can get behind us too.
It's a bidding war.
Dan, what did you think of the podcast?
Yeah, look, it's a tough one with this one. It had a little bit of everything. Some parts of me say it was shallow and pedantic. Other parts of me say, no, it had its moments. Maybe it was a bit too long-winded. Was the scripting all right? Yeah. I felt.
What's scripting?
Well, look.
Listen to us giggling away.
That's
this is
what
when we're becoming the worst parts of ourselves. Nick, let's cut to what is the most important part of the entire podcast, and that is our happy birthday shout-outs.
Of course.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday.
We were flooded with comments. There were thousands of them. Obviously, we can't read them all, but the one that really touched us more than the rest was from Helen, who wrote on our Facebook page, Luke, hope you had a good birthday, Nan and Pop. There was no commas or anything in there.
I think it speaks for itself, though.
You
doesn't
can put them in. But,
read between the lines.
So, Luke, who still is something of a mystery to us, hopefully you had a wonderful birthday. Nan and Pop certainly wish you did.
We did too, for that matter. Yeah, Luke, I hope you had a killer birthday, man. You deserve it.
Yeah, I reckon so.
After all the chemo, you know.
Right. There with it.
Wow. Yeah,
he's had a rough time, Luke, and I'm glad that the message has got to him.
Interestingly, it was a capital A as well. I hope you had a good birthday. So, you know, we don't care if you had
it could be any of them.
A shitty birthday before, now, or after.
Yeah.
But I hope this one specifically was good.
In the last 24, 25, however old he is, hopefully one of them's been fine.
We're wrapping up at this point. It's been an awesome week. Thanks for tuning in and checking us out. Please do get involved on Facebook or on Twitter. Let us know your thoughts, what you think we should chat about next week. Definitely let us know anyone that you want to have a happy birthday. Maybe Luke's got another upcoming event that you think is worth...
God, I hope he's got siblings.
That would be the best.
This is going to keep us...
364 of them.
This will sustain us. Yes.
Tune in next week for Coming Attractions.
Coming Attractions.